was so beautiful. It was an independent too. Like it was just people from all colors and races and backgrounds and religious beliefs and political beliefs, and they just united to throw that out.
You're listening to Let Me Tell You Why You're Wrong.
Welcome to episode 186 of the Let Me Tell You Why You're Wrong podcast. I'm Dave Roberts. With me is my podcast partner in crime, writer, journalist, owner of the Georgia Virtue, and dog mom, Jessica Szilagyi.
Hello, Dave. Hello.
How was your week?
It was wonderful. How was yours?
You had a better week than I did.
I did because Jackie Johnson went to jail.
Yes, she did.
She did. She checked in. She was impounded on Tuesday, I think. It was so beautiful.
For 7 minutes?
Wednesday.
Yeah, for 7 minutes.
She was. They'd already worked out all of her bond stuff before they even, she had her attorney work everything out, but she checked in and had her picture taken and was fingerprinted, and I, of course, printed it out and have it on my desk.
And she wore pearls. She
did. She wore polka dots and pearls to jail, which we were talking about before the show. I mean, obviously she wasn't going to be like given a jumpsuit and say, okay, here's your sheet for the night. Like she wasn't going to stay, which I don't think she should. Like I think she's a terrible person, but I also think that jail should be
protecting society.
Right, restricted to the people who are dangers and threats to other people. I would have an ankle monitor would have been okay for me, but anyway.
Ankle monitor, or at least surrender your passport.
Mm-hmm. But
and that may be a condition. I have no idea.
She looked absolutely awful, and it was just.
I don't know. We were all wanting to see her being drug out at 3:00 in the morning by some
like
alphabet agency.
Yeah. No knock warrant by the U.S. Marshals. Yeah.
Flashbang, pearls go everywhere.
In my dreams.
Well, this week we had to say goodbye to Allie.
It was terrible.
It was, and I know it's a horrible transition, but a lot of people who listen to the show know me and stuff like that. And she was 17 and a half.
Yes.
She'd been on medication for a long time, about $300 a month worth of medication for a long time. We'll put a new knee on her. She had a stroke some years ago, and I took her for an MRI. The dog had every opportunity. She was very well taken care of. Not having children allows us to do things like put a knee on a dog. But at the time, she's only 10, so we figured she had another 4 years, so it was worth fixing her knee. It was great that we had another 7 with her.
Right.
And of course, the heart and the head don't agree. Logically, like it was the right thing to do, but your heart doesn't necessarily agree with that.
Of course not.
But
talks our family.
So there's the yin and yang. You've got the awesome week for Jessica and the rough one for us here.
Yes. It's true.
But yeah, that's awesome. I want to make sure that you had the opportunity to spike the football on it.
Oh, I've been gloating all week, and I will continue to gloat.
If you don't follow Jessica, look, Jessica broke the story.
Well, I like to tell people I was anti-Jackie Johnson before it was cool to be anti-Jackie Johnson. Like, I was writing about her and investigating her and talking about her shenanigans regionally before Ahmaud Arbery ever became a story and people knew what the Brunswick Judicial Circuit is. And like we talked about on last week's show, what she did in that case is absolutely awful. But she's done worse things to other people that didn't make national headlines. And so, we have to delight in the small victories we get. That is the way that this earthly world is holding her accountable. And right now, that is public humiliation. And I'm here for it.
Yes, you are. Mm. So we have a woman was late for her flight. So she told airline workers there was a bomb on the plane.
It's creative. I'll give her that.
Marina Verbitsky arrived at her terminal at FLL, Florida, Fort Lauderdale Hollywood International Airport on Monday night, with her husband and son, but they were too late. The plane was about to take off. When employees told her their checked baggage was on the departing plane, Verbitsky became enraged. She cursed out the JetBlue, imagine that, employees, and then said her luggage contained a bomb. Allegedly. Mm-hmm. It had to be Florida.
Oh, yeah. Every Florida story, too, just about is in Broward County.
Yeah, absolutely. But she's not a Floridian.
No.
She's from
no,
Chicago.
But they get all the riffraff.
Oh, yeah. So she was upset that her son might miss a day of school.
Well, can you blame her? They probably put her in jail, depending on where she's from.
Right. Which district in Chicago? Look, man, if you're traveling, this was on Labor Day. If you're traveling on Labor Day, you need to give yourself extra time at the airport. Everybody is trying to go home late Labor Day night, get the most they can out of their vacation. Everybody's taking the rental car in at the same time. Everybody's trying to get through security at the same time. Mm-hmm. So this lady's nuts. In fact, I think the judge did order a psych eval. If she got the same bond amount as Jackie Johnson, $10,000.
Jackie was released on her own recognizance, though. Let's just note that.
Yeah.
This lady probably had to put up her house.
But the Chicago Sun-Times is carrying the story also. It's, what the hell's wrong with people?
This is apparently like I thought it was creative, but it's actually like a little bit more common. A 74-year-old man did the same thing.
At the same airport.
And they had to evacuate 3 terminals, close roads, and cancel or delay dozens of flights. And
right.
And I guess the sentence is 15 years in prison if you're convicted, which, of course they're not going to, even if you are one of the people who, like, it's similar to, I don't know, perhaps they will crack down on this. I don't know. But by and large, if you, read over the Department of Justice, when things like this happen, they usually get, a little time at a what's similar to the state level transitional centers, like a residential center, and then they spend a lot of time on probation.
Yeah, and get banned from the airport. Mm-hmm. Probably banned from JetBlue, which I banned myself from JetBlue a long time ago.
And then they're felons.
And, well, you can't, not that you can own a gun in Chicago anyway.
Right.
Yeah, she'll be a felon. It's...
Well, and don't forget the Georgia man who did, his was my favorite. In Pennsylvania, the Georgia man said that he was late for the plane and his daughter was smuggling marijuana on the flight.
Huh. Is that illegal in Pennsylvania?
I don't know.
It is loaded on an airplane. I don't know if Pennsylvania has legal pot or not. What? I don't understand what's wrong with people. There's another flight. Pay your change fee. If you absolutely have to get home, Delta has red eyes from Fort Lauderdale. I don't know what the connection is getting to Chicago, but if you absolutely have to, or you take the 5 o'clock flight the next morning. Okay,
but at the same time, and I hear you, but at the same time, it says that in the last year, the FAA has received 3,889 reports of, quote, unruly behavior, and they've collected a subsequent $1 million in fines against dozens of people. I got a problem with that.
First of all, it's become the Greyhound of the skies.
But you're talking about almost 4,000 reports, and only dozens of them resulted in actual punishment and you generated $1 million from those people. What are you? I mean,
Man, there have been several theories of what's causing it. Ambien, for one, causes unruly passengers, because Ambien is a hallucinogen. If you don't get to sleep, and that's where you see people that'll stand up, start shouting, "There's a bomb! There's a bomb! There's a bomb!" Stuff like that is they're they're essentially sleepwalking. The other is flying. The experience of flying has downgraded, especially over the course of my life. I mean, I used to wear a jacket and tie on the airplane.
really, Grandma? Where'd you go?
We flew all. We're in a Delta family. That was a requirement for flying non-rev.
Did you have a double-decker plane too?
I have never flown on a 747. Are you talking about a bi-wing? No, I've not been on a bi-wing.
No, the ones that have like 2 stories.
Yeah, it's a 747.
Okay,
No,
well,
Delta got rid of their 747s before I came along. There used to be a what was called the Starlight Lounge upstairs. So first class passengers could go up a spiral staircase, and there was a bar up there and a lounge, and you could sit and order drinks and sit down, chill out, talk to the passengers or whatever. Then when you get close to the final approach, go back down the stairway, get back in your seat. Delta did get the 747 back when they acquired Northwest, but they ruined it. They put seats up there. So I was actually going to purposely buy a ticket, go somewhere where the 747 was the aircraft, just to get the experience that I missed out on. But I remember prime rib on airplanes, steak, lobster.
Qatar Airways has started doing all that again.
Yeah.
My mom flew them when she went to India in 2018, and they had just started flying out of Atlanta at that time, and they are all about the luxurious experience.
Yeah.
You got to go through Qatar, so
and
in
Emirates
a no-fly
also.
zone. But
Yeah, I mean, so's Emirates. Emirates had Jennifer
Yes,
Aniston
yes.
advertising for them and all that stuff. Even their coach seats are pretty darn nice. But, you're also talking about a $30,000 ticket to fly first class anywhere that Emirates goes, out of Atlanta anyway.
right.
But they still have old-fashioned flight attendant uniforms. They still have, I mean, like,
It's an experience.
yeah, but they have the same old standards that are now illegal in the United States for their flight attendants. Height, weight, and all that stuff.
Well,
But-
the
but
thing
it's-
what you were getting at though is that the decline in the quality of travel generally, and the fact that
And society.
well, yes, I
You
mean,
think people think it's okay to wear pajama pants to Walmart. Then it's further downgraded by the TSA, long wait lines. You're already annoyed. Traveling, being there is awesome. Getting there sucks a lot of times.
it's very stressful.
They've made the seats so small so they can cram as much flesh in that tube as they possibly can. You've got the TSA, which essentially strip searches you. Take your shoes off, take your belt off, and then if you're a regular traveler, you're annoyed with the people in front of you because they'll go all the way to the scanner and then go, you have to take your belt off. Then everybody has to wait for the guy to take his belt off, wait for another tray to come around, put it in the X-ray machine, then go through. It's a dehumanizing experience. It's a like you're being put in cattle cars. So you're already annoyed. Add alcohol, and at the fact that flying shouldn't be affordable to everyone. So the same people who are wearing pajama pants at Walmart are cramming onto JetBlue. I did like the JetBlue.
They're out there
flight.
flying and voting. I mean, who the hell do they think they are?
If they were flying to get away from voting, that'd be great.
Mm-hmm.
But they could just, mail it in for wherever they are, including the grave. So, we have another district attorney in trouble. Columbus DA Mark Jones was indicted last week on the second district attorney to bite the dust in the last 2 weeks.
Mark Jones.
This is the complete opposite. If you look at the story on the Georgia Virtue and his mugshot, he's like in a black T-shirt. Every other DA that I've seen, Jackie Jones put on pearls. Dick Donovan wore a button down.
Did they make him put on? Now that I'm looking at it, though, did they make him put on a little scrub shirt?
I don't know.
Because it does look a little large around his neck. And
it does.
He strikes me as he wears those fitted suits with the suits that with the pants that get skinnier towards the ankle, and that I don't care for. But it just doesn't look like his attire that I would normally catch him in.
And maybe it is. Maybe it is. But it is a stark difference when Trey Kelly turned himself in. He was wearing a collared shirt. Dick Donovan was wearing a button-down collared shirt, hideous button-down collared shirt, but
Right.
he did wear something appropriate. He's 70-something years old. He's going to look like Gerald Ford playing golf. That's just what happens when you're in your 70s.
You can't help it.
That old reference, huh? And Jackie wore her pearls. She knew she was going to get a mugshot. She could have put a little more foundation on, maybe do something, to.
That's how she looks all the time.
She got elected like that?
Well, no. Sonny Perdue appointed her, and then no one ran against her. And then when they did, Keith Higgins kicked her ass. But Mark Jones, oh, Lord. These are serious charges.
2 counts of influencing witnesses, 2 counts of bribery, 2 counts of violation of oath of public officer, 2 counts of attempted violation of oath of public officer, 1 count of attempted subordination of perjury.
Mm-hmm.
I did not do it. I did not do what they say I did, Jones responded. I've never taken a bribe, never tried to influence a witness. I've never tried to get someone to testify untruthfully. So I feel I fought so hard for this city. I've gotten convictions on cases that matter, and I feel we've been responsive to the community. I added the sniffles and the crying. I don't know if he was actually crying.
He definitely didn't cry. But here's so I have lots of opinions on this. One, I don't think that everyone who is accused of a crime is guilty of a crime. He's also, his trial for his other felony charges starts Monday for the thing that happened in the Civic Center parking lot with the, making the laying drag and stuff when he wasn't even driving and all that. And I think it's totally bogus. And I Jackie, I investigated and I saw a lot of the evidence myself. And so I feel differently about that. I don't know all the facts and details, but I will say it is extremely concerning to me that it's his chief ADA who he allegedly tried to pay $1,000 to get a murder conviction on the case that she was working on. So I think because the chief ADA is appointed by the DA. So, that's somebody he put in as second in command. But then I think about politics and how it is and how we've talked about I think it was Hector Ramirez. Maybe I'm getting the last name wrong, but the case with the officer involved use of force and how he's bringing back the murder stuff and how the cops are against him right now. And there's a lot of people who are very angry with him. And
justifiably so.
And yes, justifiably so. But I've seen how vindictiveness can work in the political realm. And, they look at all these charges that he has stacked against him. It's his second round. And, he's a Democrat. Jackie Johnson was a Republican appointed by Sonny Perdue. She's a rich father who owns banks and has all these connections. And she got very minor charges that will ensure she never serves a day in jail. And of course, we have Dick Donovan, but his is all on recording. And all I can say is I hope that there are recordings and stuff that go against this or that go in to back this up as well, because especially, here's the other thing. When a DA is removed from their office, who steps in to take their place until the governor appoints? And then usually the governor appoints someone. I mean, it's going to be people within the office. And so I just look at who has something to gain from this. I don't think he's the most ethical guy, which I think doesn't work for him. I mean, we've seen what he did with his friend Brault and bringing him in as a special prosecutor instead of going through PAC. Like, there's lots of things that work against him. All I'm saying is it doesn't look good, doesn't sound good, but I'd like to see the evidence.
Yeah. DAs are dropping like flies, man.
I love it, though.
Out here, Matthew Rollins, who was the second in command, is the acting DA.
But doesn't he have a tip-top reputation?
Yeah, really good guy. Really good guy.
Like, in the community, he is known for being legit.
Oh, yeah, straightforward, Marine. I know that because he'll mention it in the first 5 minutes of meeting you. Mm-hmm. I know, I really like Matt. He sealed off Donovan's office. Nobody touched anything. Because it's an ongoing investigation, and he doesn't want anything tainted. He doesn't want to touch it. He's still working from his desk. He didn't like move into Dick's office. Everything is just the way it was the last day he was in the office. Mm-hmm. No, Rollo is a super good guy. He is running for DA in 22, and he certainly gets my endorsement and my vote. I even contributed to his campaign. So yeah, Rollo's a really good guy. I don't know what the second in command down in Columbus does. In Donovan's case, I don't think he's going to go to trial before his term is up. Mm-hmm. So the governor won't get to appoint anybody. Which is kind of good that it'll keep the eye from behind Matthew Rollins' name. Because people just see incumbent and remember the story about the DA and associate him with it. So, I don't know what's going to happen in Columbus. I assume the second in command has taken over. Jackie Johnson's not an issue because she lost her last election because she actually had someone run against her.
It's so beautiful. It was an independent too. Like, it was just people from all colors and races and backgrounds and religious beliefs and political beliefs, and they just united to throw that out.
You know, Jessica, you really need to show some passion when you come on the show.
I know. You know, all the complaints I get are people are like, gosh, take a stand on something or pick a side. Like, we never know what you think.
Exactly.
Speaking of.
So, for decades, Eugene Fodor wrote and edited travel books that introduced middle-class travelers to the world. And anybody who is my age who traveled knows you'd go and buy a Fodor travel guide to that country. And it had lots of tips on times of year to go, things you need to see, things you can skip that are just kind of overblown. But that's when he wasn't moonlighting as a spook. And this is the wording in the article from the Daily Beast. It was Daily Beast, right?
Yes.
The year was 1936. Was a momentous year for global travel. The RMS Queen Mary made her maiden voyage from Southampton, England to New York. Aer Lingus took its first flight from Dublin to Bristol. E.R. Ekins, reporter for the New York World Telegram, won a race around the world using only commercial airlines, and it took him 18 days, 11 hours, 14 minutes, and 55 seconds. And Eugene Fodor published his first guidebook.
Good for him.
On the continent, a 1,200-page doorstop on Europe, the world's first annually updated travel guidebook. This guy worked for the OSS. He's from Eastern Europe. he worked for the OSS, which is the Office of Strategic Services, precursor to the CIA, during World War II. He spoke 5 languages, was actually involved in what we now call a psychological operation in trying to overthrow the Nazi government in Czechoslovakia, I believe.
Really?
Yeah. He was doing and he was doing PSYOP before we knew to call it psychological operations. There were several operations during World War II that fall under that heading. One was dropping a body of like a vagrant or something dressed up with fake papers and stuff, like he was a flyer that drowned, to give misinformation to the Nazis. But anyway, back on Eugene Fodor. Then he worked for the CIA, and we have vague reports as to when he stopped working for the CIA. But this guy could go into countries that normally we could, Eastern Bloc countries, as the famous writer. Spoke most of the languages, could move around freely, and everybody knew this guy, and and didn't raise an eyebrow. His guidebook, it was really groundbreaking because it made the world accessible to, average people.
Well, you should read we'll put it in the show notes and everything. But if you have the opportunity to read the story yourself, it's an interesting one.
It is. It's great. In the 70s, there was somebody who testified in front of a closed session, executive session of the Intelligence Committee, who mentioned him, and then that leaked, and Fodor was pissed because it put his family in danger. Mm-hmm. This is a guy that traveled around the world. Now he's exposed. So part of the testimony was we have him up into the 50s, and he may still be on the payroll now, which in the intelligence community is a big no-no. You don't unmask people.
Sure.
Even if he had retired by that time.
No.
You don't unmask people. But yeah, it's a. I'm not going to read line for line of the story. It's a long, involved story, and it's a great read. I mean, it's true life James Bond stuff. There was a story of an older guy when we first kicked off the war in Afghanistan and in Iraq. He had I believe he was a Vietnam vet, but he was older. He was in his 60s or 70s, and he would put on shorts, pull his socks up to his knees, and go to these countries with a camera around his neck, looking like a tourist, and no one messed with the old guy. And he was able to slip in and out of communities, talk to people, gain intelligence, work assets, do everything that you think of James Bond wearing a tuxedo and carrying a Walther PPK. No, this guy was unopposing, old, camera around his neck, and looked like the quintessential tourist. And he was able to move around hostile countries because nobody was messing with the old guy. Yeah, that is way more with the intelligence community than you think of super spies. Mm-hmm. Now, this is a good time to remind you that these are our opinions and not those of anyone not on the show or any respective company for which we may work, own, or otherwise associate ourselves with on a regular or irregular basis. Also, you can find other episodes and relevant stories over at thegeorgiavirtue.com.
Correct.
Well, Jessica, I know you don't have much of an opinion on this one. Joe Biden's COVID vaccination plan. I can't imitate Joe Biden, so I'll just read it. We've been patient, but our patience is wearing thin, and your refusal has cost all of us.
So, Are you?
Yeah.
Are,
The unvaccinated minority can cause a lot of damage, and they are.
damage. Okay, so a couple things. First thing I want to say is this came out at he started his office started leaking a couple of the points like Thursday afternoon, and we kind of had an idea of the big bombshells right before he took to the podium at 5 p.m. But people pretend like it's like so he's so just visible and it's so wonderful the way that he gets in front of people or in front of the media and professes stuff. But the president should not be speaking to the country at 5 p.m. Eastern time, in my opinion. Like, nobody's home from work. Most people on anyone not on Eastern time is either in the carpool line or still at work. The president used to address the nation at like 8 or 9 o'clock at night so that everyone could hear. And I think that the reason that they have him speak earlier is because then people don't watch. They just read about it and see small clips, and they don't see the bumbling fool that he is. And I don't mean that like it has nothing to do with his I mean, I don't like his ideology at all, but he is not a good orator. He is not these aren't his thoughts.
No, and it's not the Joe Biden we knew 10 years ago or 20 years ago. It's just not.
I'm irritated.
And none of us is the same person we were 20 years ago, but his decline is
obvious.
Yeah. I was going to say he doesn't do it at 8 o'clock because that's past his bedtime. He's got to take his Metamucil and go climb into bed. The other stuff that he said, I don't know if we got this quote also, is it's not about your freedom.
Yeah.
What?
It is. So, I mean, we could sit here and debate the merits of the vaccine and again, if you want to get vaccinated, get vaccinated. If you want to get vaccinated, don't get vaccinated. That's how I feel about it. We know that everyone is spreading it, whether they're vaccinated or not. That's just science. Like we know that COVID's not going away. Those things aren't relevant to the conversation though. Like, and that his presentation of this plan, in my opinion, was to further divide, to further politicize, and to basically peddle a narrative that is not accurate.
Well, yes, it is about the freedom. Your freedom and your rights don't change based on conditions. Rights are inalienable. That you don't. There's a disease going around doesn't mean government has the right to interfere with your life. So we have the 6-point plan from White House.
Have you actually, had a chance to sift through the actual booklet?
No.
I mean,
no. Next time I need to get to sleep, I will.
Yeah, it's on the White House website, but it's also like available in a PDF form. It's not like this isn't some bullet point presentation someone put together. This is in-depth tyranny.
Oh yeah. So we have one: vaccinating the unvaccinated.
Not the role of government, not the proper role of government ever.
Requiring all employers with more than 100 employees to ensure their workers are vaccinated or tested weekly.
Totally outside the bounds of what the federal government should be doing. And I had people asking well, what's the difference between, an employer mandating it and the federal government mandating that employees mandate it or employers mandate it? The difference is literally everything.
Oh, yeah.
The difference is I'm not a slave to my employer.
Yes, you are.
Well, I am because I am my own employer and I am tougher on myself than anybody. But I mean, people are not slaves to who they work for. They can go work somewhere else. And and employers have private property rights, and they have the right to employ people whose values align with theirs, and they can set certain terms and conditions. I already think that they have broader powers than the federal government has tried to constrict over the last several years. But the difference is everything. The difference is that you're talking about the federal government saying, if you have 99 employees, we're leaving you alone. If you have 100, you must do this, or face $14,000 per violation in fines.
Under OSHA. OSHA is the regulating authority that makes you wear hard hats on job sites.
Well, and some lady I saw a post on social media. She was like, "Well, I work in the food industry, and I already have to have a hepatitis vaccine because I handle food." Okay, well, that is a little bit different than talking about Joe Blow, who works for Office Depot and is working virtually or whatever it's called. What do you people do?
My wife works for a bank. They employ more than 100 people.
But not at that branch.
Yeah, but that's not how it works.
I know, but that's bullshit.
It is. All of it is. All of it is.
I think about Verizon, right? Like most Verizon stores have like 3 people in them. My mom manages business parks for a living, and Verizon is one of the business park tenants, and they have not had people in their building for 18 months, and they have no idea when they're going to bring them back. They may institute this, and if they want to, that is on them, and I support their right to do that. But until then, who cares what they're doing vaccination status wise?
You can care. It's not the role of government.
But I don't care because it's none of my business, because I don't work for them and I'm not the government and it doesn't have anything to do with me.
It's also not my employer's business what vaccinations I've had. Now, obviously, look, I've got a friend who travels the world for business. And they're required vaccinations to go to. He has factories in India, and of course, there's vaccinations that go along with going to India. I wouldn't be going there right now.
You mean COVID?
No, there's something else going around India right now.
Oh.
COVID too. I mean, if you're in Mumbai, try to get 6 feet away from somebody in Mumbai.
Right, it's very crowded.
So requiring vaccinations for all federal workers and for millions of contractors to do business with the federal government.
Federal workers, I don't like it because I don't think they're asking for their vaccination records on anything else. But, I mean, you opt in when you work for the federal government.
Well, it's the same thing when I saw people griping about troops having to get it. I'm like, look, that your body's not your own when you sign that contract. So you don't even know what vaccinations you get as you're going in initial entry. You just line up and they shoot you in the arm with vaccine guns, and then put one really thick vaccine in one butt cheek. So when everybody's waiting waiting for everybody to get done, everybody's sitting on one cheek.
Well, the contractors part though is totally out of bounds.
It is.
There's contractors that never set foot on federal property
Yeah. They're using the power of the wallet. And you got federal contractors that do hundreds of millions of dollars for the federal government. So the guy who's laying asphalt on 75, if it's a federally funded project, guess what? And this is a guy that sees 5 people all day and sits on his machine all day, and then goes home to his family. He has to get a vaccination or risk losing his job.
Well, and you think about people. So here's another thing too, like what you're talking about, or you think about IT people who do certain contracting, security and technology stuff with the government. Of course, this is not everybody, but in some instances, those people work in the situation that they do because they don't want to be around a lot of people, or it made sense for them to work that way so that, they may have an underlying reason for not getting the vaccine thus far. because
sure.
they're isolated. And here you are saying, well, we don't care, but simply because of your job type, you are subject to this mandate. That's disgusting.
Requiring COVID-19 vaccinations for over 17 million healthcare workers at Medicare and Medicaid participating hospitals and other healthcare settings. Wow.
Again, we're talking about the federal the federal purse strings, which, we've talked about this before. Like, you opt into federal funds and it's lights out for federal contingencies and puppet strings. That's why they offer them, not just for these types of things, but the PPP and all of that.
Yep.
But I just...
It's
on principle, I can't support it.
It's the mob,
right?
I'm giving you a gift, but I'm going to ask you for a favor later. It is. They are the biggest mob in the world. Calling on now. Calling on doesn't mean anything. Large entertainment venues to require proof of vaccination or testing for entry. You choose to participate if you go to a concert. You choose to participate. I went to a Braves game not long ago. I chose to go.
And you assume the risk in doing so.
Absolutely.
Vaccination status or not. I mean,
probably should have gone so close to my trip.
Well, the place could implode because of a bomb while you're there. I mean...
Luckily, the only bombs we saw were off the bats of the Braves. Mm-hmm. Requiring employers to provide time off to get vaccinated.
Totally out of bounds.
First of all, Kroger and Publix are doing vaccines, and I'm sure Walgreens too, 7 days a week.
Yeah. And they don't stop. It's not from 9:15 to 4:55.
Right. I mean...
If you want to get vaccinated, you can get vaccinated.
Yeah, I have yet to see the problem where someone says, I really want to get vaccinated. I've wanted to get this vaccine for 6 months, but I just can't find the time. Well, it's not that important to you. It's just one of those things. Okay, further protecting the vaccinated is point 2. Providing easy access to booster shots for all eligible Americans.
Is it going to be easier than what it already is?
I don't know. Ensuring Americans know where to get a booster.
Jesus.
Okay, if you've already gotten your vaccine and it's time for a booster, how would you not know where to get the booster? Wouldn't you call the same place you went to and say, hey, I'm whatever I don't even know what the criteria is. 65 years old. I got my second shot 8 months ago. I think I'm ready. I think I need the booster, or it's time to get the booster. Do you have it? And all these pharmacies that you talk to will say, no, we don't have it in, but Walgreens does, or we don't have it in, Publix has it.
Yeah, but there's only one company that has a booster shot right now.
Right.
So how are you gonna?
Point 3, keeping schools safely open.
Okay, that's not proper grammar.
Yes, I know.
Keeping schools open safely. How are you keeping schools open? You're keeping them open safely.
The writer correcting the White House. Requiring staff in Head Start programs, Department of Defense schools, and Bureau of Indian Education operated schools to be vaccinated.
That's 300,000 people.
It is hard enough to find teachers to good teachers to go to a reservation and teach. It's already hard enough to keep teachers. I know teachers that are straight up quitting. I know one that became a teacher's assistant, so she didn't have to put up with the BS that goes along with being a teacher. She took the pay cut, and she's a TA with a master's degree because she didn't want to. She wants to teach children, not deal with the paperwork, not deal with everything else that goes along with it, the bureaucracy that goes with it. I asked her, "Has you thought about becoming an assistant principal?" She goes, "Oh, hell no." Calling on states to adopt vaccine requirements for all school employees, asking states to follow the example of places like California, Connecticut, Hawaii, Illinois, New Jersey, New Mexico, New York, Oregon, Washington, District of Columbia, and Puerto Rico. So asking, whatever. Providing additional funding for school districts for safe school reopening, including...
Yeah, because they didn't get enough damn money.
Right.
We just handed out, what, $122 billion to schools?
Yep.
Like, half these school districts got their entire year's budget.
And my taxes still went up.
Right. As an extra, but they got all these things. And they're going to get more money for what? For what?
And my taxes will go up because of this on the federal level, and then my property taxes continue to go up to fund schools I don't use.
But your property values.
Yeah, but property values doesn't put money in my pocket. It's not like the average American can go to his boss and say, "Hey, look, my property value shot up $100,000 last year. I'm going to need a raise." Using the Department of Education's full legal authority to protect students' access to in-person instruction.
They're already investigating. What is it? 5? They have 5 investigations going on.
Yeah, use the Education Department Office for Civil Rights to go after states that, in the federal government's view, discriminate against students with disabilities by banning mask mandates. That doesn't even make sense.
Not the proper role of federal government.
Not the proper federal government, one. Two, the students with disabilities are the ones that need to be out of the mask a lot, depending on the disability, obviously. If we're talking about a kid with a learning disability or some I was talking to, again, I talked to a lot of people. I was talking to a teacher that was having a really hard time teaching students to spell, and she's in a special class because wearing a mask, they can't see your mouth, and that's one of the techniques for teaching kids how to spell is sounding out words and
Sure.
and that kind. And you're trying to do that between a mask and a face shield, and the kid's wearing a mask, and these are the kids that need to be out of a mask.
Well,
all of them do, because that's how we learn empathy. That's how we learn to interact with each other. We see each other's faces. We see each other's mouths. When we say something, we see them smile,
right.
or grimace, or something else. That's how we gain empathy, and that's how we learn with each other and how we interact with each other. But anyway, that's off. Getting students and staff tested regularly. Huh.
Why? If you're vaccinating them and you're making them wear masks, why do you have to do this too?
Providing every resource to the FDA to support timely review of vaccines for individuals under the age of 12.
Pardon my language, but that. Let me say something. Like, you're not going to hear me be all anti-vax about adults or, but when you're talking about developmental stages and because the pathway we're going down is we're inching towards mandates for everybody. Like this is not where the buck stops. This is going to continue on. And as soon as this is available for children under 12, they're going to say like it's you have to have it to go to school, or you have to have it to go to this, or you have to have it. And there is the big difference between injecting a little child in a developmental stage. This nonsense about the most reactions happen, within a couple weeks of, or within a lot of people say within a couple of days of getting vaccinated. Sure, if you're talking about like breathing problems or a rash or
fertility,
Bell's palsy or something, right? When you're talking about a child, and if a parent wants to take that risk, that's on the parent. Like, go for it. That is your child. But don't be rolling in here telling parents what they have to do.
They're talking about children as young as 6 months by 2022.
Absolutely not. Give me a fucking break.
Yeah, that they are. I mean, they're talking about 6-month-old baby getting the vaccine. Jeez. Increasing testing and requiring masking, making at-home tests more affordable, sending free rapid.
They're $20.
Yeah, free at-home tests to food banks and community health centers. Continue to require masking for interstate travel and double fines for airline passengers who refuse to wear masks on flight to maintain face covering requirements on federal property. Continue to require masking on federal property.
Is that going to include the national parks? Are we going to have this life where we have to be masked outdoors at the beautiful national parks simply because someone said so? I mean, is that?
I'm not going to live the rest of my life with a white spot around my nose and mouth. I actually did buy masks for my flight coming up. Mm-hmm. Same mask that you see college coaches wearing on the sideline. I call it the Nick Saban mask, but it's a screen, and you can actually see my mouth through it. You can actually hear me through it. Hopefully they let me on the flight with it. Otherwise, I'll have a paper mask in my pocket. Improving care for those with COVID-19, increasing support for COVID burdened hospitals. I don't know what kind of support you're going to give them. You're telling them to fire their employees that can't get vaccinated. Getting life-saving.
You've got a shortage. You're sending the National Guard places and strike teams and.
Right. Getting antibody treatment to those who need it. Expanding the pool of healthcare professionals provided treatment by deploying federal, as you said, antibody strike teams. Antibody strike teams.
I love the use of strike teams when we're talking about. I mean, they've been using that for a while, but it's comical to me.
And of course, December of 2020, Biden said that COVID vaccinations should not be mandated by the government, and masks should not be mandated. In fact, Jen Psaki 2 months ago, not even 2 months, a month and a half ago, said absolutely not. That's not the role of federal government. Man,
did we get it
downgraded?
And you can't tell me that it's because of the surge.
No, this is all about power.
That's exactly
American
right.
Federation of Government Employees, the largest union of federal employees, I don't know why they need a union, said while it strongly encourages vaccinations, workers should have a say in new mandates affecting them.
What about them exempting the post office? The Postal Service. What's that about?
Because they have a strong union.
Well, also, I think it's because, I mean, can you imagine what would happen if postal workers walked off the job?
Oh, yeah. Postal strike. Nobody would get their bills.
Boo-hoo.
The quote is put simply, workers deserve a voice in their working conditions, said National President Everett Kelly. We expect to bargain over this change prior to implementation, and we urge everyone who is able to get the vaccine as soon as possible they can do so. Encourage is fine. If you truly believe the vaccine is the right thing for most people, yeah, encourage it. I personally think you shut your mouth and worry about your own family and make your own personal decisions on your health. But hey, that's just me. You're vaccinated? Cool. You're unvaccinated? Cool.
We're more divided than ever. I mean,
oh yeah.
The responses to this, there are people, and it's not about the vaccine. It's about the fact that the federal government is telling a business that it is required to make its employees inject something into their bodies, whether they believe they want it or not, or whether their employees want it or not. Otherwise, it's going to cost them, and the federal government is going to get money for it when the federal government is not a victim of anything. That is what is so offensive.
Absolutely. Larry Cosme, president of Federal Law Enforcement Officers Association, called the mandate for federal workers, quote, ill-conceived, saying vaccination should be promoted through education and encouragement, not coercion.
It's not rocket science.
Yeah, it's a principled stance. I mean, it's probably a good idea for most people, according to this guy. But it's just we've beat the vaccine thing into the ground with people who cannot get it, people who have autoimmune problems. That.
But it doesn't matter if they don't want it. The federal government should never be able to tell them they have to have it.
No, absolutely. I don't know. I'm on your side with that. In fact, you are not wrong. Kemp responded on Thursday saying during this president's address with a tweet saying he will pursue legal avenues to fight the federal mandate.
I don't know how he's going to do that. I mean, on some things I do, but like I don't understand what grounds he has on the federal agencies, federal employees, federal contractor stuff. That I think he's off in the weeds. For the other stuff,
maybe
perhaps.
The schools.
Yeah.
Maybe the schools. But it's, again, Georgia keeps cashing that check from the federal government. The school districts keep cashing those checks from the federal government. I mean, when you take money from Uncle Sugar, you play by Uncle Sugar's rules. So speaking of tweets, Ron Klain, White House Chief of Staff, retweeted something originally from Stephanie Rule. OSHA doing this vax mandate is an emergency workplace safety rule is the ultimate workaround for the federal government to require vaccines. They're damn proud of it.
And he retweeted it.
And he's proud of it. Proud of it. It's a workaround. My God, man. All right, Jessica, we're running dangerously close to running long. So what about your closing thought?
Well, I just wanted to get your thoughts. Do you think Gavin Newsom's going to pull through on Tuesday?
I think he'll survive.
You do?
Yeah.
I kind of do too.
I mean,
I'm hoping not, but
such a blue state. It's been a full court press with Harris out there, celebrities endorsing him. And look, Larry Elder is not nobody. I mean, he's pretty well known. Does Larry Elder beat him? Man, I don't think so. Mm-hmm. But the more the nuts go after Elder, the better he looks. That chick in a gorilla mask throwing an egg. It's a good thing she throws like a girl. Because I don't even think the egg would have broken if it hit him.
Yeah.
And how is her face not plastered everywhere? How is she not in handcuffs for assault? How is she not being sent to a mental institution for evaluation? I mean, look, politics is getting ugly anyway, but when did black, very educated, very smart guy who came up from nothing, worked hard his entire life, when did he become the white supremacist? And when did the white woman wearing a monkey mask and throwing eggs at said man, how is she the freedom fighter?
Because up is down and down is up.
We tie it all back together with the stories about flying and society in general, and we're circling the bottom of the drain here, folks. You know, we need something has to happen. You know, I would there's calls all the time to go back to 9/12, how we were a society on September 12th, 2001. Right, left didn't matter. We were all pulling together as Americans. So I'll leave that as my closing thought. For Jessica Slodgy, my partner in crime and owner of thegeorgiavirtue.com, for Eric Cumby, our awesome editor, I'm Dave Roberts. Have a great week.